So, picture this. You have traveled back to the 1600s and you are enjoying a walk through the streets of a beautiful European village. The people in the streets greet you in their foreign language and wave as they pass by while you find yourself immersed in an experience that you can never imagine. And all of a sudden, what seems like almost a rift in time ensues. The village becomes invaded by things of the modern world. In come modern flags and modern inventions, and that charming little village you were just walking through is turned into a giant gloomy city in a matter of seconds. Well, this is practically what happened to a humble theme park in Williamsburg, Virginia. But before I explain what I mean, let me take you back to where it all started. The year was 1975, and Colonial Williamsburg saw a big boom in tourism due to not only the historical sightseeing opportunities of Yorktown's battle sites, but also the brand new theme park where visiting Europe could be done in one day. The old country was a place where guests could enjoy the tranquility of Heatherdown, Scotland, stroll through the romantic streets of Aquitaine, France, or even explore the surprises of the mystical land of Hastings, England. Perhaps that wasn't enough, enjoy the English musical commentary of the Ragamuffin Band that walks through the cobblestone streets of Banbury Cross, decorated and signs, shops, and the beauty of the Elizabethan village. Or experience the sights, sounds, and wonderful smells of San Marco as you dig into some authentic Italian cuisine and enjoy a show or two. That was added a few years down the line, but whatever. However, after over 30 years of operating under the helm of Anheuser-Busch, prioritizing an authentic European experience with a few exciting thrills along the way, this all came to a screeching and sudden halt in 2009. This is when a little amusement park chain called SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment came along and purchased the park. This is when, at an unimaginable pace, the characters and beautiful buildings were stripped away and replaced with something that you find at an everyday amusement park. This is when the authentic quality food and products and the strive to make everyone feel immersed in 17th century Europe was no longer the top priority. This is when the old country fell out of existence. And now with a big corporation owning this little family-owned park, they began to instead add major rides and roller coasters with little thought put into the atmosphere and actually theming these rides. Dang near every ride added to the park from 2009 onwards was not themed well, replaced a beloved attraction, was terribly misplaced, or even all of the above. But if you thought that was the only problem that SeaWorld has inflicted on Busch Gardens, then you'd be dead wrong. Next, they started to take the 17th and 18th century European atmosphere that made the park so special in the first place and modernize it into the ground. First, they killed Banbury Cross in 2014 by adding London Rocks to the Globe Theatre and plastering the modern UK flag all over the village. Then they turned to New France in 2016, completely destroying the cozy vibe of this cabin by shoving a modern Canadian theme in and around the building. But SeaWorld was far from finished destroying the place. Next, they turned to the village of Rheinfeld in 2022, ruining the cheery, quaint 1600s vibe of the area by repainting every single building a different color. And then came the addition of TrashKoaster. Before this ride, a breathtaking dark ride that could rival the likes of Disney and Universal called Curse of Dark Castle operated here from 2005 to 2018. This ride took you through the haunted bowels of a castle frozen in time, preserving the old country's whole point of existence. But SeaWorld struck, gutting out the ride mercilessly without warning and replacing it with a load of modernized crap that is TrashKoaster. A confusing story, the addition of modern elements, the complete lack of any good on-ride theming. Heck, the only good thing about this ride is what they left over from Dark Castle. The point is, they have just kept taking what made the old country, and demolishing it by painting over a narrative with a toxic present-day approach in what I call the Modernization Dilemma. Now, I've just thrown a bunch of information at you, so before you get confused and question this fancy term, let me explain. The Modernization Dilemma is a combination of many different factors that have attributed to the old country's figurative and literal demise. Namely, the removal of 17th and 18th century European theming that attributed to the park's special atmosphere and the replacing of that with a modern-day alternative of what stood there before. Now, this problem was mostly started and continuously aggravated by SeaWorld's decisions as seen by the numerous examples I brought up earlier, and this problem also includes the removal of other aspects of the park such as the characters, authentic food, and products. And there are many reasons why this is a huge issue for the park and why this needs to stop. For starters, it has destroyed any trace of authenticity in the food, products, and sites. Tell me the last time you saw anything being handcrafted at the park other than the sculptor working his magic in San Marco. The quality of all food and Euro-themed goods has diminished alarmingly since SeaWorld took over, and it's not seemingly subject to changing anytime soon. Secondly, and most importantly, it doesn't make any sense to modernize the park. Not only does it cheapen the look of the place, but it goes against the purpose and identity of the old country. It doesn't make sense to reference Canada in an area themed to New France and to plaster the flag of the United Kingdom in the Elizabethan village of Banbury Cross. And it certainly does not make sense to refuse prioritizing the characters, the little details, the small experiences, and the beautiful atmosphere. But they have completely killed off those qualities and instead overexpanded the place by adding a bunch of roller coasters year in and year out. However, I digress as that's a topic for another video. So in summary, I'd argue that the old country was something of a national treasure. At its peak, it more than deserved the title of the world's most beautiful theme park. The pure beauty and quality of the place with a simple mission to please any guests that walked through the turnstiles made it so precious and unlike anything else in the world. Nowadays, Busch Gardens is a shell of what it once was and no longer deserves such a title. And the only way I can see this park being even remotely restored to its former glory is if Anheuser-Busch buys it back, as they were the ones that created and really cared for the park. Even Hershand, owners of Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, could restore the magic of Busch Gardens and definitely have the capabilities to do so. But this is something that has to happen in order to stop not only the modernization dilemma from continuing, but also the treacherous and rapid-paced trend of Busch Gardens Williamsburg being converted from a theme park to an amusement park.